Okay, so I watched WWE Hell in a Cell, right? Okay. It was a okay pay-per-view. We'll start off with the first match, which was Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso. Really great storytelling. It was an alright match. I thought they could have did more. Maybe a little blood because, they're cousins. It makes sense for there to be a little blood, right? Um, Storytelling was great. Roman Reigns, probably the best he's been in his career, and he's a really good heel. So that's my opinion on that match. Another thing about that match is when Roman Reigns got hit with that belt for the third time, him no selling, getting hit by the belt just didn't make any sense for the match. Like, if I got hit with a belt in real life, of course I'm gonna fucking feel that. That's gonna hurt. Why would I no sell that? And then go straight into a spear. And then when Roman Reigns got put to sleep by Jey Uso when he had the belt around his neck, right? And the ref was like, yeah, he shook his head no. Like, bitch, I was watching the fucking match. He never shook his head. But okay, we'll let that one slide. We'll let that one slide. That match was okay. I think the next match we had was Elias versus Jeff Hardy, and that was just a shit show. And then Otis versus Miz. I didn't understand why they had that outcome where Otis loses money in the bank contract. But I guess since he was doing nothing with it, he had to lose. But you give it to Miz. What the fuck is Miz gonna do? Win a championship and then immediately lose it the next day? Probably. More than likely. But it wouldn't make sense for Miz to win anything because hasn't he been being put down with John Morrison for like the last 3 to 4 months? It just doesn't make any sense for the storyline of them being shit and John Morrison coming back to WWE and only winning a tag team title and then losing it like what a couple months later, and then after that he just gets ruined. So I don't know. It just didn't really make sense for. I guess it did make sense for Tucker to turn on Otis, right? Because they're on two different brands. But the thing about them being on two different brands is that the turn didn't really make any sense in the end because they're on two different brands. How are they supposed to fight each other? Okay. Next match, which is my match of the night, was Sasha versus Bayley. Great match. Loved all the spots in it. Was a really good match. Um, don't know about the storytelling in it, but the way Sasha managed to fight through and beat Bayley. The storytelling with the chair, though, the chair around Bayley's neck at the end, like that spot. I liked a couple other spots where Sasha went into like the steel steps. There was a couple spots. I feel like that was the best match of the night in my opinion. The next match was Bobby Lashley versus Slapjack. Oh my god, what the fuck was that? Why was this even a match on the card? It made no sense. Literally none. But I guess to make the TV, well, not TV time longer, but the pay per view a little bit longer, they had to do it. And in my opinion, they shouldn't have had this match. We already knew who was going to win, and we knew it wasn't even going to be a contest. Last match of the night, I just watched because I fell asleep before it started. So, happens when your sleep schedules are fucked up. Last match was Drew McIntyre versus Randy Horton. Horton. Uh, Basically, this match could have gone either way. I understand why they let Randy win is because Bray Wyatt is now back on Raw, and Bray Wyatt's got to get his revenge after what Randy did a couple years ago. Um, but Drew McIntyre taking that table spot and then him bleeding from the mouth. I don't know if the ref put anything in his mouth because if you really thinking about it, wouldn't it? If you fall from that height at that speed and velocity, don't you think your mouth would be bleeding down like this? Kind of like Finn Balor's was when he got his jaw broken in two places. I don't know. That match, it didn't have really any spots, to be honest. It had the table. It had him going through the table. It had Randy going through a table. Drew McIntyre going through a table. And most of it was just throwing each other into the Hell in a Cell. I wanted more from that match. And honestly, it kind of disappointed me, so I really feel like the Sasha and Bayley match actually helped out this pay-per-view, but that's just my opinion, and nobody gives a fuck about my opinion. It was a good match. Can't wait to see Sasha flexing on SmackDown. And Randy's a 14-time world champion, so we'll see how that goes. So this is just my opinion on WWE Hell in a Cell 2020. What a shit year. What a shit year.